Tonight's webinar is titled Flying with Your iPad Using the WingX Pro7 application. And our presenter is Jim Sweeney. Jim is WingX Pro7 customer service and training specialist. He's a commercial pilot and also ultralight pilot and sport pilot. He likes the light stuff, kind of like I do. He's a certified flight instructor, and he's a member of the FAA FAST team representative. He's a member of the ASTM Committee on Light Sport Aircraft Standards, and a member of the EAA. With that, Jim, we're so lucky you're with us tonight. And with that, I'm going to turn control of the presentation over to you.
So we're going to be talking about WingX Pro7. There's quite a bit of material here that we're going to be covering. I'm going to start with the basic stuff and focus on one area specifically, and I've asked Tim for the opportunity to come back for a second presentation where we're going to cover some of the more detailed information. A little bit on Hilton Software. The company is founded by Hilton Goldstein, 2003, and Hilton has a background in image processing and signal processing. That's the expertise for the application we'll see. Hilton himself is a flight instructor. The company Hilton Software is involved in military solutions and in the development of applications for a wide number of operating systems. Emphasis of late has been on the Apple. However, we have some good news coming for the Android users, and we'll share that a little bit later in the presentation. The technology that has involved WingX Pro7 over the past years, there are a number of firsts to the market that have since been utilized by a number of the other applications. We pride ourselves in being first, but some of the ones that came out first were the synthetic vision, the track up, ADS-B. We've had ADS-B for traffic and weather for over 4 years, and a number of other items that are on the list. The data compression, the heart of the application, allows WingX Pro7 to be used on the smallest of iPads, the 16 gig. Our application is about 5.5 gig and runs very well. So unless you're going to use your entire music collection, all your pictures, and other applications of size on the iPad, the 16 gig is more than large enough. To put that into graphics, we're down here at about 5.5, and you can see some of the memory requirements for some of the other popular applications that are out there. So starting with WingX itself, this is a screen showing split screen, but the number of functions that we'll be going through. Some people enjoy using it in the vertical versus the horizontal. The application works very well, and every once in a while I like to remind people that they can tilt it if they choose to. What we want to start off with is the menu page. This is the heart of the application from orientation purposes. If you get lost, come back to the menu page. If you're just starting off, a good place to start is the menu page. From the menu page, you can get to all of the other significant areas of the application. As we're speaking about the menu page, up in the upper right-hand corner, there's a crescent. And this will allow you to change the background. So we have a light background and we have a dark background. And it will toggle back and forth between those backgrounds. Other information that's important here, showing across the top, the green bar indicates that the major files that get updated every 28 days, this information is current, and we show about how many days left before an update is required for these particular databases. They'll turn yellow, they're still valid, they're still current. If they go red, then they are outdated, and you should be updating it. The weather update shown here, the weather updates in the background automatically. You can force start it, but it'll start itself and keep up to date with the current the weather information. And then we also have a new area over here where NOTAMs. Now in both the cases, the weather app or the weather file and the NOTAM file, both of those when they're downloaded are downloaded for the entire United States. So you're not limiting yourself to the weather information that you are pulling down. Another item that's handy is in the lower left corner. The app that we have here, and I notice it's cut off here a little bit, but that's 8.5.0.0. If you look on your iPad, if you look on the menu page in this corner, you'll see the number, and that's the number of the WingX Pro7 version that is current. Now, some of you may be wondering about that 8.5. That's the release that has been sent to Apple. So we have a updated version that's in the process. Apple has it. Unfortunately, we never know quite how long it takes Apple or will take Apple in order to get a version out the door. It could be a week, it could be a couple of weeks, but look and you'll see it come down. It'll show up on the application as an update available. It'll also show up on your iPad homepage under the App Store. You'll see a red circle, and that red circle indicates that you have applications waiting for you. You may want to click on that occasionally and take a look at the apps, WingX Pro7 and other applications that are ready to be updated. Now what we're going to do is go directly into the most powerful of the features that we have, or the sections that we have of WingX Pro7, and that's the moving map. What we're going to find is that there are multiple ways to get to certain chunks of information that you may be looking for. And I want to say right off, if I show it a way or a path on how to get some from point A to point B within the application, and you have a different way of doing it, use what's most comfortable for you. By the same token, we have videos that are up on our website, hiltonsoftware.com, and I'll mention that again later, that show some techniques. Those are narrated by Hilton, and he's shown some particular way to get to an area, and you, again, may have the way of doing it that you are most comfortable with. The moving map screen I'm showing here is what you'll start off with in the moving map. Starting at the top, on most of the slides, there's a button at the top left corner that says menu. This is a way to get from where you are backward and back to the menu page, the page with those 12 blue tiles, where you can start again. So that's your orientation period right there. Basic navigation information here: speed, direction, altitude. If you're using an external GPS, if it's a WAS GPS, then we will indicate that. The light control over here will allow you to vary the screen's intensity. The higher intensity you use on the iPad, the shorter your battery life. If you can knock down, reduce the intensity of the backlight using this button, you will be able to save battery and make that battery last longer. There's an expectation that you'll get 6 hours out of the iPad battery. However, your own use may vary. And again, taking this thing down will definitely increase the battery life by using less information or less battery current. The down arrow here is for actions. We're going to get into that in a minute. We've got a number of timers across the top. These are new. You may not have seen it on the version that you're running, but the terrain information, that's an AGL, the height of the terrain, that's in feet. AGL is where we're sitting above the ground. Cross-track error, how close are you on or off course. The flight time, this timer can be set back to 0, and as the GPS starts moving, you'll see changes in that. And then we have 2 separate timers that can be varied. A fuel countdown timer, and you can change its function, or an approach timer that starts from 0 and counts up. So one's a count up, one's a count down, and the flight timer is a timer itself also that starts at 0. So these are some new features that we've added on the update. Down in the, what I'm going to do then is go through the information across the bottom here and point out different things that we have. Just to start with, however, you may notice when this screenshot was taken, we had some ADS-B traffic, 37,000 feet. That's my favorite airline, United Van Lines, and he was at 425 or 422 knots. I've already put a route in here from the local airport, Savannah, over to Whiteside County, down to the Quad Cities. Here was another. This is FedEx. he's at 37,000 feet. So these two sightings were taken while from my location here at the house, and as they were flying over. We're going to talk about these two black squares over here on the right. These are weather changes to the weather on the map that we can make, and we'll get into specifically what those metrics are that we can change. The one that's showing up here now is surface winds. So you see the arrow with the barb at these different airports. The barb indicates the direction of the wind. The length of the bar indicates the velocity of it. When it gets up above 15, it actually changes to a number. And down here at Whiteside County, we've got 13 gusting to 20. And so it was kind of a windy day out here today. By pushing the what is now the info button down here, it had been called the route button and may still be that way on the version that you have, we can display some route information. So here's the information on the departure airport, the en route, and then the destination airport. We've got some basic information for communications here. If you tap on this box, an airport diagram for these airports will appear. And this is just a quick way for you to be able to get a handle on what's going on the ground. If there's a little in this case, green dot in the corner, that means it's a geo-referenced, FAA geo-referenced airport diagram. And as a result, it's available for safe taxi. So in this particular, if you have the GPS working, then you will see yourself on the ground at that airport. These two individual airport symbols or boxes, these are AOPA airport diagrams. These airport diagrams are not geo-referenced. A little bit more information down here. This column that we're showing here can be divided or shown a single area. So now I have it on route. If I tap airport facility directory, I'll get more information on the airports of question. And then if I put both, this column can be split so that both segments. So normally in flight, I typically keep it on the route page, but you can back that around. Down here we have some more controls. Edit. I can change the position. I can slide these bars up and down to change the order. So the computer tries to anticipate where you want an airport to be placed if you're adding it, or a waypoint, or a VOR, or an intersection. It'll try and place it where it thinks you want. If you're looking at your route and it's not in the sequence that you want it in, then you can use that edit button and rechange the order that they're in. Clear button does exactly what it says. Options will open up choices, one of which is to save, to recall the information, and the send button will allow you to send the information to another iPad that you may be talking with. Or actually, if your co-pilot has a iPad, you can send the route that you currently have to them. I've closed the route bar and back to the general map. You can see the information as we've gone through here, where that aircraft, that FedEx, has moved, and the United has gone off the chart. What I'm showing here is that, in fact, let me go back one. If I want to add an airport to this route, or if I'm starting the route from the beginning, I can put the identifier in here and click the return button on the keyboard, and that will add it to the route that I have here. In the case that I'm showing next, I've wanted to add the Dubuque Airport, which is up here to the northwest of me, and so I've put it in there. I've hit the return button, and now my route has been altered so that I am now departing from Dubuque, going to Savannah, Whiteside, and then the Quad Cities. And showing on the map itself, the magenta line, our course line, has changed. It had started at Savannah, now it's at Dubuque, continuing through Savannah, Whiteside County, and then going. So you can add and subtract airports, intersections, waypoints very quickly. If you elect to remove one of these airports, you use what I call the Apple delete. You put your finger on the slide here, the bar, and then slide to the left. You'll see a delete box, a red delete box get shown, and then tap that and it'll be removed from the route. Down here in the options are load, that will be recall a saved route from your listing of your saved area. Here, touching the button here, saving it, reversing the course, or clearing it out altogether. So we can edit this route very quickly. Reverse comes in handy a lot of times, or clear it out altogether and start with a new route. If I hit the save button, it will show me exactly what I'm about to save, and it will, you hit the button one more time to tell the computer again, the iPad again, that you're looking to save this route. By the way, down here where it shows the total nautical miles, there is another number in parentheses. This number is the great circle route from your point of departure to your destination. Obviously, we're not taking a straight line, and that's effectively showing us how much out of our way we're going. I've changed the view in the column now to the airport facility directory, and I'm showing information for the Dubuque airport. If I want to change this to any one of the other airports, I just have to click on the route, that particular airport, and the information for that airport will come up. So if I wanted to change this to Savannah, I would have tapped on Savannah right here. I'd tap on that, and then the information for Savannah will come up. The information that's down here is quite a bit of information. We've got more detail on the airport facility directory page, but it covers the communications, runways, location, facilities, NOTAMs are things that we can click on by using the cursor that's down here. So this thing scrolls from right to left, and you'll see it move. Up here is something new, and that is the Green Book. We now have the FAA Airport Facility Directory in its entirety. And the Green Book used to be, I think a lot of people used to carry the Brown Book. That unfortunately is no longer available. That was a nice, tight, compact publication with all of the airport information in it. And the Green Books have always been hard to get. Not all airports carried them. You had to buy one for each region of the country. I think there were 7 different regions and quite a bit of bulk. Now we have the entire publication to include the legends. The first number of pages, I think over 20 pages of legend on this thing. So anything that has a definition or a code in the airport facility directory is defined in the legends, and we can in fact have those legends in the book. So if I look at the Dubuque Airport, and this is a little bit of a eye chart, but it's the standard format. Some of the airports do have airport diagrams. You can get the runway weight bearing capacity if that's a consideration for your aircraft, but all kinds of information here that is meaningful. I think as instructors go, we teach you how to use the Green Book. We'd like to have you use the Green Book, but boy, it sure is a problem getting them sometimes. So we're moving from the info button down at the bottom. Now I'm on view 1. There are a lot of similarities between view 1 and view 2. The views can be shown individually, or they can be shown split screen. And I have a list. The most popular of the views is the VFR sectional, but you can see down through the choices here, there are quite a few of them. And we'll be going through a number of these as we go. The options are the overlays that I can put on top of any one of these views, VFR sectional through none. And I can put terrain, obstacles, airspace, and this will overlay and add in your navigation. You can turn them all off, you can turn them all on, whatever view you'd like to have them as they help you on your navigation. The one that I have on the bottom down here is ADS-B radar. If you're using any one of the ADS-B radars or ADS-B boxes that WingX Pro7 is compatible with. We've got 10 different manufacturers that are making boxes out there. You want to turn this switch on. Once it's been turned on once, it's fine. It only needs to be turned on once and it will remain on. What you're doing with this is you're saying that if you are getting the NexRad radar from the in-flight ADS-B, to overlay it on top of the sectional chart or the en route chart, the terrain and whatnot. Any of these upper functions right here, you can overlap or overlay the ADS-B radar. The thing that you have to look out for here is that sometimes things can get pretty cluttered. Sometimes that display, particularly when you get into the darker colors and the heavier weather, that display can clutter what you're actually trying to see on the en route chart. If it's that bad, I hope you're on an en route chart, or on the sectional chart itself. And it may be appropriate to turn off the weather temporarily so you can see what's on the chart that you're trying to view. So that button is there. A lot of people do miss that one, unfortunately. The next one that we've selected here is the synthetic vision. And if with the synthetic vision and the display I'm showing here, and we'll enlarge it, we can get the information of terrain and obstacles along our path of flight. You have an option here for a heads-up display, or what we refer to as the AHARS presentation. If you have an ADS-B box that has the synthetic vision capability, or more appropriately, the AHARS presentation, this is where you turn it on. So the presentation you're looking at in the right is synthetic vision without AHARS, and that's part of the basic subscription. The presentation that you're looking at now on the right is synthetic vision with AHARS, and to get the pitch and bank capability, you do need the external gyro, and the external gyro is part of the ADS-B box or a standalone gyro. They're available from a number of different manufacturers. So there's the AHARS presentation. Also included, if you have the external gyro, is an attitude indicator. So some people would rather see the pitch and bank displayed in the traditional format rather than on top of the synthetic vision. So this is also available. And the screen button that's down here on the center that I'm pointing at down at the bottom, that allows you to switch back and forth the screen that you're viewing. And you can put the AHARS or whatever else you want switched into the main screen. And if you go with the screen button itself down here, this will allow you to go to full screen. If you toggle it again, it will go back to split screen. So we have toggling this way. And if I hit the swap button, I can swap out what that other page was. So I've got all kinds of swapping capabilities with the screen button and with the swap button. And this presentation, by the way, on an iPhone makes a real nice heads-up display. You put it on with a suction cup on the left side of the windscreen, and so you're seeing this in a size that doesn't block a lot of forward vision, but by the same token, you have a backup attitude indicator. All the information that comes into synthetic vision is coming from the GPS satellite. We take that information and process it and then display it. So once you're airborne, the WingX Pro7 on the iPad does not need a connection with Wi-Fi or cellular on the ground. It's driven specifically by the GPS information, and it's compared with the data that we have in the data files on the iPad. Down on this symbol in the center is a terrain profile, and this will give us the elevation from the beginning of our flight to the end of our flight for the terrain that you're about to fly over. And that you can toggle that on, you can toggle it off. The scale on here says that the top end of the scale, or just barely over here, is about 1,100 feet AGL. So as much as these look like they might be mountains, they're just high ground, if you will. In the land of corn and beans, not a lot gets higher than about 10 feet. but there is some. The next button that I'm showing is this wheel gear icon down here in the center of the page, and this opens up settings for the GPS moving map. There's quite a bit of scrolling that you can do here. This is kind of a long list of things that you can turn off and you can turn on depending on what you want to see displayed on the map itself. There is a button here called Snap to Location. When this is on, your GPS position will be in the center of the screen. And as you're flying, this is probably about where you want it. If I turn the center button here off, it'll skew it so that you've got a little bit more visibility forward of the aircraft than you have in back of it. With this on, it's centered. With it off, it's skewed to one side. Now, the reason I'm pointing this out particularly is because most people fly with it. We recommend you fly with it with Snap to Location on. But let's say that we're in the the Midwest here, and we want to take a look at what's happening down in Florida. We want to view airports or anything else that might be on the sectional chart, and you've scrolled all the way down there, and you're moving around the map. You take your finger off the screen for about 15 seconds, and wham, it snaps right back to beautiful downtown. And after that happens a couple of times, it gets pretty frustrating. That's when I get the call, why does it keep? Turn the snap to off. It'll go to, you can move to Florida or any other place, and it'll stay there until you tell it when to move back. Now, if you want to tell it to move quickly, down in the lower right here, there's a target symbol. Anytime you hit that, and regardless of the mode that the moving map is in, that will take you back. That will center the aircraft. So if you inadvertently scroll off your course and you're looking at something that's not on your course and you want to get back there quick, you can use this button. If you have the snap to on, it'll snap back in 15 seconds, but that may not be fast enough for you. So we have the button down here that will allow you to scroll back very, very quickly. I suggest you take a look at what's in settings here. Down at the bottom, runways. This is how we extend the runway center line, and we can take that runway center line out quite a bit. This also turns on the traffic pattern bars so that you know whether it's left or right traffic. Now, once that's been set up, I'm going to go backward a little bit. In the view that you want to turn on runways. And now I'm showing in here as one of the options on the VFR sectional or view 1, and it'll work in view 2. You want to turn the runways on, and so you decided how long you want the center line to go beyond the airport, 1 mile, 3 miles, 5 miles. You've got the patterns out. Now you turn it on with that runway switch. In the lower right, we have some GPS information. This is a little gray box. It is a 3-position toggle, small, medium, and large. And in this box, we show information of your position. So right now, it's telling me that I'm 13 northeast of the Clinton Airport and gives my specific longitude and latitude. That's the minimum setting for the box. Additional information that will be shown, if you have an ADS-B receiver, it'll indicate that it's ADS-B. It'll show the number of towers, and the towers alternates with the batteries, with the battery strength of the ADS-B receiver. So you know how strong the batteries are in that. That box can be turned off altogether, and the majority of what you're seeing on any given view, if you turn it on, you can turn it off. Some people don't want any clutter at all as they're using the GPS moving map. Another thing you'll notice, I've touched the button down here. It said north up. I touched it, and it went to track up. So where I had been looking, I'm not sure if I've got it. Yeah, right here. So here I'm in the north up position. I've touched it. Now that route is in the direction that I'm going. We rotate pertinent information, the airport, the wind, the weather conditions, things like that, so that you can better understand what's going on. And left is left and right is right in the direction you're going, for those that really don't want to read it upside down. Now, on the right-hand side, there's a black box that may have a name in it, and the name that's in there is what is being depicted on the airport information. So in this particular case, it says surface winds. I can change that to none, so there's no information depicted, or I can go through this list of options to have depicted at each and every airport that has that information available. The VFR rules is real handy. If you turn that on and then drill out so that you can see multiple airports, you can get a real quick idea as to whether the conditions are flyable. On this one I mentioned, we are showing up here at SQI the wind conditions. So we've got sea lane sky coverage. I use the surface winds. That's the one I like particularly. Down here, we've got pricing. If you're part of the subscription, you can show the fuel pricing of either the 100 low lead or the Jet A at each of the individual airports. The next button is the weather button. This will turn on the NextRad radar that I mentioned, and there are a couple of different modes that it can be turned on. Off will turn off the NextRad weather altogether. Single will show the latest depiction of the NextRad weather. Animate will sequence through 4 time slots and thus give you an animation. If you put it on 5-minute, those time slots are in 5-minute intervals. So you've got 15 minutes of information. If you put it on 15 minutes, the picture was taken, if you will, or the time slots are in 15-minute intervals, and as a result, you can get an hour's worth of information displayed. I particularly like the 15-minute interval. I get a better idea of what the trend of the weather is. If the weather is changing extremely fast, or you have a need to know very, very quickly, the 5-minute intervals are the ones that you want. So the 15-minute or the 5-minute single will stop the presentation on the latest information, and off will just turn it off altogether. There's other information, and by the way, this is coming from Velocity by Barron as it's advertised down below. There are a number of other displays that you can make on top. Now, the weather that you see on the weather surface or this particular display shows it by airport. When we go into the velocity depiction, it shows it more as a coloring over a large area. And you can see gradients where winds have increased over a distance, or other things. Visibility has changed over a distance. So if you then zoom out on this, you can see where the weather really you can see the edges of where the weather begins to deteriorate. And typically that's what we're looking for here, is those areas where things to begin to change so that we can stay away from them. Okay. Now I've moved up to the upper right-hand corner. This triangle is the action button, and it has a number of functions. The first one is lock. If things are bouncing around and you're tapping on the screen of the iPad and you'd prefer that it not move, if you will, you can lock it so that any tapping on the screen will not do anything to the display. If you do lock this, up in the right corner, there is a coloration that's up here that begins to turn red, and it's an indication that it's a yellowish red, that the screen is locked. The only way to unlock it is to tap the button here. The next one that I want to go through is a simulator. Not a lot of customers know that we have a simulator that will pick up the route that's in your route planning box on the route planning page, and it will put it in here. You can set the speed. If you've seen me at the air shows, I set this at 1,000 knots typically just to keep things moving along. I like to set it at low level. That'll tell the simulator to fly at 500 feet AGL, and it makes for quite a show flying over the mountains at 1,000 knots. You can tell it to land at the destination airport or maintain an altitude, and you give it the starting altitude. So this is all activated by hitting the stop button. You'll see the aircraft move along the course that you've selected, and it makes for a good simulation. That being, while you're in the simulation mode, you can turn on the synthetic vision, you can turn on different displays, you can literally play with the application. You're moving along the prescribed route, and you can get a feel, and you can practice, if you will, for using the different displays, split screen, for you. The next one that's on that list is external hardware that we want to talk about. Is the GPS coming in right? Has the device located a GPS fix, the WASP mode, things like this. There's a summary mode that will show 3 red circles or 3 very large red dots. All those need to be green, whether you're using just the standalone simple GPS or whether you're using one of the ADSB boxes. Now we're going to go to the external hardware. Again, it's tapping on this button, scrolling down external hardware. This is showing the status of the external devices that talk to the iPad, primarily the ADSB boxes, but also the external GPS antennas. And it's giving us information to make sure that the device is connected, that it's getting GPS, that it's actually found the location, and whether it's a WAS mode or not. On a summary mode up here, I gotta go back. Summary mode, which if you selected that, there are 3 circles, and all 3 have to be green if the external GPS antenna is being used or the WAS device. So if you have any one of those devices, you may want to play with this while your ADSB device or your external antenna is working to see what the indications are, and then if all of a sudden you're not getting the GPS signal, that it will let you know about it. I've switched over to view 2, and the same views are available in view 1 and view 2, but what I've shown here is that I can do a split screen, and what I've selected here are documents. We have the capability to upload PDF documents and then show them in the split screen. And in this particular case, I've got the operator's manual for one of the champs, the Citabria in this case, and I also have another document that I uploaded here. So the thing that you're looking for here is on the PDF, you load that through Safari or whatever means onto the iPad, save it on the iPad, then go to open it, and when you go to open it, a screen will come up and it'll ask you how you want to open it. One of your choices will be WingX Pro7. So by opening a PDF document with WingX Pro7, it will store it in the in-basket with the documents. And the thing that we're looking for here, in this case, it's the POH. In another case, it may be a checklist. Those get real handy in this thing. There may be other documents that you're carrying with you that you'd like to make reference to, but those can all be, as long as it's a PDF document, it can be downloaded. Another feature that shows up is the notepad. Not a lot of people seem to know about this one, and there are 5 notepad pages. They're all individual. You can write with a stylus or with your finger. There are undo for erasure of keystrokes or clear button to turn around and clear it out altogether. Once you've written on a given page, it will remain there until you clear it out, till you erase it. The next one that I'm showing here are charts. When we go and hit the chart button, the application asks you, what are you really looking for? Takeoff, climb, approach landed. In takeoff, if I tap on that, I'll get the airport diagram for the departure airport. And that's the first airport in your route list. Climb will give a departure procedure or a choice, so you can choose the departure procedure for that airport. Descent is the arrival procedure. Again, you can choose it. And approach is the instrument approach for that airport, and landed is the airport diagram. So as you click on one of these, and I've chosen approach on this one, you will then see the approach plate in the split screen. It's for the destination airport, in this case the Quad Cities. It picked a runway, runway 9, for the ILS. Now, if that's not the runway, I have the ability to change that to the proper runway. And down here I have options for this approach plate. If I turn on the pencil mode, I can turn around and make markings directly on the approach plate, much as I did on the notepad. I can scribble a frequency in there, I can circle something that's important, and I have the undo capability where I can remove keystrokes if I made the wrong one. The route button, when it's highlighted like it is, will actually show the route on the approach plate. In this case, I'm going to the center of the airport. Or if I don't want this, if this is considered to be clutter, then I can turn that and the route will disappear. Also, you'll see later that I can draw the entire approach on this approach plate, and again, I can turn that on or off. So I'm either showing the paper approach plate or I'm showing the approach plate with the route superimposed. If this is a georeferenced approach plate and I'm within range, I'll obviously see the aircraft, the blue airplane, on this approach plate. Trail, as the blue airplane makes its way across to the approach, it will leave a gray breadcrumb trail behind. If I want to turn that off, that's what the trail is for. If in turn I want to leave it on and I'm doing S-turns across the localizer on the way in, then that's going to become real obvious real quick. NOTAMs, if I tap that, I will get the NOTAMs as published for the arrival airport. Down here on chart, this is where I can select the multiple approach plates for that airport. So if I had planned on runway 9 and all of a sudden it's runway 27, I hit chart, it'll show me my options for runway 27, and I'll select the approach plate as appropriate. Now, if I'm doing a lot of moving around and back and forth, if the approach plate comes up for some reason and it's not the airport that I really wanted to look at, like I want to look at my alternate rather than my destination, I can go to airport here and I can select a different airport than what the iPad has selected for me, and then I can zero in on approach plates and view them and then go back to what I had in mind in the first place. IAP routing was introduced a year ago, and what this does, you select the approach and the iPad will fill in all of the points that make up that approach and then show that information on the iPad. So it's and it becomes part of your course. So here I've shown a route from Truckee to Reno. Here's my departure airport. Here's my destination airport. I've come down in here and I'm going to select down here where it says add IAP to route. So I'm going to add the instrument approach to the route. I click that and it gives me my choice of what runways I want and the type of approach for that particular runway. And I've selected 16. Now I'm showing the approach plate for 16. Here are the points that make up the route. And I've got a number of different entry points. I can enter it here, I can enter it here. So the initials, I'm going to choose the one that's over here, and that one is KLOC. If I tap on or choose KLOC up here, now the course line has been diverted from the center of the airport to my initial, and the course line then continues as it's made up by all of the points in that. Tapping OK up here, and now I have, let me go back one. Truckee, my en route phase, here's the initial, here's the approach with the plates, and bringing me down to the runway. Over here now, I've added, there's my point of departure. Here are all of the points that make up that approach, starting with K-lock and then ending at the runway. Now what I've done is I've gone from points here to summary. Summary just gives me a top-level view. So what I'm showing here is the departure airport. The approach that I'm going to fly is the RNAV runway 16 left, and then the destination airport. So I can go, if I want more information than that, and by the way, this is scrollable, so I see the departure airport. I don't see the destination down here, but I can scroll up so that I can see the same thing. And I can see all of the points that make that up. So with a click of a few buttons, I've got the entire approach, I've got all the points in that approach, and I've got it displayed as part of my overall course. Now I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to tell it to add what I was doing the star. So the standard arrival is next. Now, the standard arrival will go out hundreds of miles, and so I found one as close in as I could. But I'm going to do same procedure. I tap Add Start of the Route. I'm going to do Kino 2 is the arrival procedure, and Kino is the point of entry. I hit the OK button. By the way, if there's more than one point of entry, it will then be shown, or you'll be given the choice. So the first choice, you select what arrival procedure you want. So I did Kino 2. If there are multiple entry points, it'll show those multiple entry points. You get to select the one that you want. You hit the OK button. And now I've got Kino. That's where the approach procedure, the arrival procedure starts, going through all these points. Again, I can show all the points that make up that arrival procedure. And then if I could, I could zoom in here and see how that attaches. There we go. So K-lock was the transition point from the arrival to the initial fix, and then I'm showing my arrival there. So I can go from an airport diagram to a departure procedure, to arrival procedure, to the approach, to the airport diagram very quickly on the flow. This is a departure procedure from Reno. I set it up the same way. I selected departure procedure. I went to the airport here, clicked it. I was given the options. One of the options was add departure procedure. I selected it, and this happens to be, it ends right here. That's where my course line would pick up as I'm going away from that airport. So here's the, let me go back. So up here, I add, so I've selected Reno, add departure. I've selected this departure procedure. It was straightforward. There wasn't a lot of options to it, if you will, in terms of point of termination. Hit the OK button, and then it's right there. So if I had a course line that was already in effect, this would be joined to that course line. On this particular one, I've got Reno with a departure procedure, an arrival procedure, and the approach to Reno. So as I depart Reno, the green is the departure procedure, the magenta color is the en route procedure, and that's taking me to the approach. So that one, somebody doing instrument approaches could get in a tight loop right there. I'm sure the tower would love that one. But so you can use these things. We've got a couple procedures based on airports that the departure procedure from one airport butts right into the arrival procedure at the other airport. And again, the departures typically go out hundreds of miles or can go out that far, and the arrivals can. So you can get airports that you never have an en route phase. You just go from the departure to the arrival. Next thing I want to talk about is rewind. We introduced rewind at AirVenture last year, and this is a tool that we had envisioned for the years, everybody, subscription. There's no additional charge on it. The rewind or the black box button is down here. When you touch it, this window will open up. I have a flight that I had recorded here from Tahoe to Reno, and the simulator was flying it. The gray line is my altitude, and you can see that I'm maintaining figuratively that 500-foot AGL. Right there I lost the GPS for a short period of time, and then it picked up again and continued on. Any given trip is recorded, so you can save them. They will save automatically, and then you can play them back over by selecting a date and then setting it up. We get information. This is a timeline, by the way, and as this is playing, you're going to see yourself. That yellow maps out the flight that you took. You notice it isn't the magenta color. In this flight, that's the current location, and you can turn around and see that's what I'm going to be following, and you can see how well you followed that track. Now, I've got this laid on top of the sectional chart. I can play this back on top of the en route chart. I can play it back on the none, which shows nothing but a constant color on there. The median that you play it back on is up to you. You can turn things on and off while you're playing it, so that you can go to split screen, you can go and put other things on the split screen. You can control what's going on as this thing is being played back. To start the application, as you're taxiing out at some point in time, you tap the record button. And this is just like a VCR. A red dot will start flashing up in the corner, and that will indicate that you're actually recording the information. When you're done recording the information, and this is the hardest button to get to, is to remind yourself to turn it off when you're done, you hit the stop button. When you're ready to play it back, you hit the play button. When you're done playing, you hit the stop button. If you are done with a given recording for a given day, you can turn around and trash it. There is a help button here. We can turn around and send this information so that you can download it on a format that's usable by Google. So you can download, or excuse me, by Google Earth, I should say. So you can export this information and play it back on a different type of a player other than WingX. So we set it up primarily for WingX, but those of you that are computer nerds will find that the format is usable to play back on different venues. The information here, altitude is giving me a range of altitudes for the time segment and a range of speeds for the time segment. So this is one that I had the simulator fly at 1,000 knots. So the intent here is to play with it. Now, once you've started the play button or the record button, you can tap the black box, and this window will collapse and get out of your way. And as a result, it doesn't take up screen. Well, when you're done, you hit the playback, the black box button, and hit the stop button. You notice that it's black in color now. When it's actually recording, it has a reddish tint so that you know that it is being recorded. One caution, if you leave WingX, the recording will stop. So you want to continue within the WingX application as you're doing the recording. If it does stop, you can start it again. It will be offset. You might get a gap that kind of looks like this, if you will. This was a result of a loss of GPS, but that it will show a gap in that you'll have the two time segments. You can continue where you left off and pick up with the new one. That concludes the moving map portion of it. Now, I want to go back. Actually, the 12 blue tiles that we talked about, those tiles are individual items that we're going to go through on the next portion of this. So we will go in much more detail, and you'll find that some customers start with the moving map and build everything from there. Other people will delve in to the menu items, and they'll build a flight from that, or they'll make reference to information while they're on that. I'm going to, let's see, escape out of here for just a minute. And, okay, actually I want to, this is where I want to be. Now, a little bit farther, let me get down here. Okay, I want to go into one of those boxes, and that's the synthetic vision. And excuse me, it's database and subscriptions. For the administrative point of WingX Pro7, this is very important. This is where you're going to get the information that is key to what's happening within the application. So from the menu page, you go to database and subscriptions. Most telephone calls I have begin with database and subscriptions, tap WingX Pro7, and it will show the page on your right. The important items here are your account ID, that email address. We use the email address primarily for the account ID. If the email address on your end changes, I guess we don't really care once we have it locked in, but you want to remember what email address you put there and the password. If you have forgotten your password, you can go to the website and retrieve it that way. On the website, hiltonsoftware.com, we have a link that says retrieve password. Key information down here is the sync account button. The first thing I have people do is tap the sync account. That makes sure that anything they've purchased recently is being recorded on our servers. It also means that if you have multiple iPads and you updated one iPad and that one shows a good expiration date, but the second iPad doesn't show the proper expiration date, hit the sync account button. As long as the email address is the same on both, you'll wind up synchronizing both iPads together along with our server. Now what you're looking for down here is the expiration date for your basic program, for the geo-referenced approach plate, SIDS and stars, we call it advanced IFR, and fuel if you have it. You'll no longer see synthetic vision listed down here because that's part of the basic subscription. If you're renewing, you tap the button that's appropriate for the subscription you're renewing. That will take you to the iPad App Store. The App Store, or actually it'll take you to iTunes. Well, and that will ask you for your iTunes password. So there's another piece of information that you need. Once you've got you're on the App Store, you get the iTunes in there, password in there, then you can renew the subscription with no problem. One of the other pages is download options. VFR sectionals are on, IFR. Typically, IFR high is off. You don't need the IFR en route if you're not using them. Contiguous is typically highlighted. If you have it on all US, you're going to get Alaska, and you don't need that combined. Typically, it's on contiguous. Down here, if you have highlighted APD only, that'll get you the approach plates. All charts IFR will get you the approach plates and the airport diagrams. So airport diagrams only, airport diagrams and approach plates. And you get to select with this thumb wheel switch, you get to select the region of the country. So USA, Eastern, Western, Central, or an individual state. So you select the smaller you make the download, the less memory you're actually using. Although with the data compression that we have, all USA is typically not a problem. After you've chosen what you want, you can reconfirm the selections that you've made and hit the download button. And then it'll go through the sequence. Current, current, current. Here it's updating the chart database. It's showing that I've got 10% loaded and the remaining. And then it'll go through these and select which of these pending is necessary. So every time you hit download databases, it always starts at the top It goes through and makes sure what's current. If you get interrupted in a download, it'll pick up where you left off and continue from there. Device information. This is handy. You can find the app version, although that is shown on the menu page. The OS that you're running. It shows the effective dates and expiration dates of the databases. So there is key information that's here. Don't confuse these 28-day cycle expirations with your subscription expiration. Get a lot of panicky calls where it's about to, all of a sudden it tells me that it's expiring, and that's the 28-day cycle and not the subscription. We're going to save the route planning and a number of these foils for the next part of the presentation, or the second phase of it. And what I want to do is get out here and skip through. Got a lot of other material, too much obviously for this presentation, and we'll go into all of that information, the other items on the menu page with more detail. Compatible hardware. All of these manufacturers make ADSB and or GPS boxes that we are compatible with. I do get a lot of questions. The Stratus is proprietary to ForeFlight, and the Garmin GDLs are proprietary to Garmin. We tried, sorry guys, they wouldn't cooperate. The let me go through here. Wearables that, the page I have here again, these are the symbols for the ADSB, and altitude, speed. It will show rate of descent, rate of climb. The direction is the direction in which it's going, and so that's the basic symbol on the ADSB. We have compatibility with the Pebble watch. There is a Pebble app that we've submitted, and this acts as a notifier. When it's sequenced with your iPhone, it will vibrate on certain key items. When you're crossing a waypoint, when you're more than 200 feet, 300 feet below your altitude, when you're getting close to the airport as a gear down type of a situation, and if you lose the Bluetooth connection to the iPhone, then it will vibrate on that. So it's a vibrating reminder type of situation. It will also show in the display basic information, the direction, the speed, the time to the next, your altitude. There's some basic information on it also. There's no GPS map on that. The website. On the website I mentioned, there are a couple of key things. We've got some videos that we're going to talk about, but the one that we're showing here for the advanced IAP routing, if you would like to get the video on that and how to use it, Hilton does a much better job than me. Take a look at that. Up here's the phone number. I got to be straight with you. Better to call than email. Give us a call. You'll get your answers quicker. The retrieve password. If you click on that, enter your email address that's in the iPad. We'll turn around and send that to you. Here we've got messages that we have sent up, and typically they have to do with the current iOS. And we've warned people to stay away from iOS 3, particularly if you're using a GPS that has Bluetooth. So the Bad Elf Bluetooth and the dual Bluetooth. Other items of 8.3 didn't have as much effect on us as it did on other users, if you will. We are expecting Apple to deliver 8.4 at some point in time, but we don't honestly know when. And I've got some additional information on the GPSs. The videos on the website, lower down on that page, that right column, we have a number of videos that are out there. Hilton does an excellent job of going through these things, narrating them. For the new users, they're almost a must. For the guys that have been using it for a while, if you review with this thing, there are a number of, oh, I didn't know that, will show up during Hilton's presentation. You'll see a lot of things that are just plain handy. And what I went through very quickly, he goes through in much more detail. I recommend them very highly. Now, as our version of the application has changed, I have to admit there are a couple of these iPads where a button may have changed location, or the route button is now called info, so kind of be aware of that. Programs. WingX Pro7 has programs for active duty military, CFIs, and Civil Air Patrol. If you're a member of any one of those groups, you can contact us and we can describe the program that we have available. Updates. Android. Do I hear any cheering out there? Android will be available in the July time period. It will be a basic version of the application to start with. We will be adding features to it as we keep going. The Pro 7.8.5 has gone to Apple, so we're looking for Apple to release that. You'll see it come through. The 8.3, iOS 8.3, the GPS problem with Bluetooth. We have a fix for the dual that's currently available. So if you're running 8.3 and you're using the dual XGPS 150, we already have a fix in place for that. If you're using the Bad Elf, that will be available in 8.5 that gets released from Apple. So dual's available, Apple is coming. Time for questions, Tim.
All right, Jim, thanks. Let's dive into to some of them that have come in. Walt's wondering, can all maps and charts be zoomed using the standard two-finger Apple pinch zoom? Absolutely.
And the unfortunate thing with the static display is I can't demo that, but I keep reaching for the screen to do that. Yes, all of them can be zoomed in and out.
Okay, and wondering who supplies the fuel database?
That is directly from 100 Low Lead, and there is a price that's associated, $30 from us. We just pass that on. But the source of the data is 100 Low Lead.
Okay, and is WingX for the USA or North America only?
U.S. possessions, so we've got continental U.S., Alaska, the Caribbean, and Hawaii. Now, as a extent to that, the U.S. maps typically overlap a little bit. Eastern Canada, there's an overlap. The Caribbean, there's quite a bit of overlap. South into Mexico, probably to the tip of Baja, where U.S. publications will cover that area, and so you'll see it there. What we don't have in those overlap areas are the approach plates or much airport information. So you can kind of navigate down there, but you won't have the supplemental information you may need. Also, on the Canadian West Coast, if you're going from continental U.S. up to Alaska, we have that mapped out. However, it doesn't go internal far enough for the highway.
Okay, and Kyle's wondering, is there a publication for WingX, something like WingX for Dummies?
Not as such, no. We have the videos, and we depend primarily on the videos. However, in the application itself, and will be more detail in the next presentation, there are help pages in there. That one of the 12 blue tiles does say help. You can get information there, and on some of the specific screens, you'll see areas that can be expanded for text information on help.
Okay, Keith's wondering, can you do real-time notation on the airport charts? For example, can you trace out with your finger the taxi route instructions you get from the tower or ground?
On the approach plates, for what it's worth, yeah, that's what that pencil mark is for. On the airport diagrams, no, that is not available.
Okay, and Roger's wondering, how is the ADSB and external GPS connected to the iPad?
That's a function of the manufacturer of the box. Dual has Bluetooth connection from the XGPS 170 to the iPad. All of the others are Wi-Fi from their ADSB boxes to the iPad. We also connect with a number of panel mount devices. FreeFlight makes one, and there are others. Those, when you buy the hardware from them, they offer you an option, which is a Wi-Fi transmitter box that will connect to their panel mount hardware, and then that box will connect Wi-Fi to the iPad. So whether it's a portable box or whether it's a panel mount box, that is available. On our website, hiltonsoftware.com, one of the links there that we're going to go into in the next presentation is external hardware. You can tap on that button, and there's a PDF page that you can print out that shows the compatible hardware and the features of that compatible hardware.
Okay. Michael's wondering, can you use bookmark feature of PDF documents in order to quickly get to the page you need?
No, we don't have that feature per se.
Okay. And Dave says he's a flight instructor, and he'd like to is wondering if there's a way he can save on the record feature flight per day for his students, because he has more than one student fly per day, and he'd like to have a unique file for each student.
It won't show up as a unique file, so I guess the answer is no. However, each time segment, so if he flies for an hour, breaks, flies for another hour, those will be shown as two different flights during that day.
Okay, and wondering again, Shay's wondering if you could review again, how do you get the videos to learn more about how to use the app?
You go to hiltonsoftware.com. On the home page, on the right-hand column, scroll all the way down, and you'll see a list by name of the videos that are available. The ones that we recommend right away are Moving Map 1, Moving Map 2, and Moving Map 3. That covers the basics for the GPS moving map. They are a link that will take you to YouTube, and you watch the videos on our YouTube channel. You can do that on your laptop. You can also do it on the iPad, and you will be able to so if you can use your Safari browser on the iPad and then go to our website, hiltonsoftware.com, click the link that says YouTube, our video channels, it'll take you to YouTube. And again, what I'm describing now is what we go into detail with on part 2 of the presentation.
Okay. We've had a couple comments here about the drawing your route on the airport diagram, and Idalo, Mark, and Fariz all commented that there's a pencil feature, and they think that they are able to draw with a pencil on the airport diagram.
Shame on me. If the pencil feature is there, it's drawable. I better go take a look myself.
Okay. And then again, let's see, could you give the website that the videos are on again? We had another person ask about the website.
HiltonSoftware.com, right-hand column, scroll down, and they're listed by name in that right-hand column. Or if we've got somebody familiar, you can go directly to YouTube and search on Hilton Software. That won't get you there as quick, but that's another way to get there. Multiple paths to get to everything.
So videos are also on YouTube?
They're all on YouTube.
Gotcha.
On the home page, what you're clicking on the home page in the right-hand column is a link, and that link takes you to YouTube.
Okay, Joseph's wondering, when you go to the new release, will it operate on iOS 8.0, or will you have to update the iOS?
Our release will operate on whatever the current operating system is, and actually we go backward to the iOS 7. We suggest to people be current and stay current up to the point. We also recommend, as quick as I said that, when Apple comes out with a new update, we suggest you wait 2 weeks before you change from your current version of the operating system, which right now we wish everybody was on 8.2. So when 8.4 comes out, we'd suggest you wait and make sure that there isn't any calamity. You know, Apple had one of the operating systems up available for a week before they took it down. And typically within 2 weeks, we hear what's happening in terms of things that would make it not usable or difficult to use with the aviation moving maps. Also, typically, if it affects our application, it's going to affect everybody else's application. We're doing a lot of similar things. So if it's affecting them, it may affect us, and vice versa.
And he's wondering, what are the minimum requirements recommended for the iPad?
You want a 16 gig iPad. Our application takes 5.5 gig. That's more than enough room, the 16 gig, as long as you're not putting your movie collection, your music collection, and pictures. Pictures take up a heck of a lot of room, and that will take away from usable memory. So if you're using it for aviation purposes, the 16 gig. If you want to store a lot of other stuff on it, again, particularly pictures and videos, then go to the 64. Pay $100 and go to the 64. The other thing that we recommend is that you get the Wi-Fi cellular iPad. That has the cellular chip in it. You do not need to subscribe to the cellular. You don't need to turn it on, regardless of what the salesman says. But in order to get the internal GPS chip, you have to have the internal cellular chip. And what we're finding is that the iPad will be more useful to you if it has the internal GPS chip. We also found that when Apple screwed up the iOS, it did not screw up the internal operation of the internal GPS. So there are subtleties that say that, yeah, start with the internal GPS chip. If you get it in the airplane, if you have it mounted so that in such a fashion that the iPad is dropping out, the internal antenna is dropping out, that's the indication that you need to go to an external GPS antenna.
Cool. Nice comment here came in from Michael. Kudos to you guys. I've been using WingX Pro for a long time and love it. Keep up the great work.
Thank you.
Art is wondering, will the new Android app be able to communicate and share with the iOS app?
You have a subscription with us for WingX Pro7. We allow a primary device and a backup device as part of that subscription. We will allow, as part of that backup, if you will, that if you have an Android phone or an Android tab, that can be your backup device. So the answer is yes, you will be able to run the Android device under your WingX Pro7 application that you're currently using for the Apple device.
Okay, and Kyle is wondering, are you planning on going to the Arlington, Washington air show this summer?
Kyle, send that request to support@hiltonsoftware.com. Any emails that go to that support address do get read. You don't always get a response. If you're looking for an immediate response, or if it's going to be something really complicated, I suggest you call. For a request like that for Arlington, I'd send that one into support@hiltonsoftware.com. We will be doing Sun and Fun. We will be doing the AOPA fly-ins. We did them last year. We're doing them again this year. Those are absolutely on the books at this time.
And Roger's wondering, how often is the airport info updated?
The airport facility, anything that comes from the FAA is the easiest way to put it, is updated every 28 days. The AOPA information has an update cycle on it that I believe is inside that 28 days also.
Okay, and Charles is wondering, is there any plan to add full Canadian chart coverage?
We wish. We're still in negotiation with NAV Canada. So we haven't given it up, but I don't have any immediate encouragement that I can give you.
And Christopher's wondering if fuel prices will be part of the flight instructor package.
Not at this time, no.
Okay, and follow up, when will the iPad and the iPhone be able to sync so that your flight plan will only have to be entered just one time?
That's already available and has been for quite a long period of time. In the more detailed, as we go through the next presentation, the section that you're looking for is route planning. One of the choices in route planning is send, and you can send the route to our server. We will give you a 4-digit, 5-digit number. You go on the secondary device, you go into route planning, you input the 5-digit number, and you tell it to send, and it'll bring that route to you. So you can go back and forth with routes from one iOS device to another. On the ground, you need an internet connection to do that. In the air, you can turn around and do that through the Wi-Fi. If one of your ADSB boxes has Wi-Fi, we can actually connect two iPads, a pilot's iPad and a co-pilot's iPad. If they're both connected Wi-Fi to that ADSB box, then you can send route information back and forth that way. And that's been there for a while.
Okay, and Henry's wondering, what was the meaning of the green dot in the airport diagram shown in the info screen?
That green dot means that it's a FAA geo-referenced airport diagram, and as a result, Safe Taxi, the GPS location of the aircraft on the airport diagram, will work. Without that, anytime you see an airport diagram, if it doesn't have that dot in it, that means it's an AOPA airport diagram. They're accurate, but they're not geo-referenced, and as a result, we can't show the position of the aircraft on the AOPA airport diagram.
Okay, and Greg had a question here related. He says, I do not have the green airport facility director option on my WingX in the info on my map page like yours has. What am I missing?
8.5, the next revision.
Okay, well, looks like we've reached the end of our time here. Our 90-minute allotted period is up, Jim. Thank you so much for being with us tonight. Please take some time and make closing comments to the audience.
I want to thank everybody for attending an hour and a half, some kind of a long time. The intent is to have a second session where we do go into much more detail on the specific pages. Again, there's multiple ways to get to everything, and whatever way works. If you have questions, please give us a call. Thank you.
Fabulous. Thank you so much, Jim, for spending your time with us tonight and helping us better understand WingX Pro7. To all the attendees, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and hope you can join us next week when Mike Bush will be talking about safe versus airworthy in the EAA webinar series. Have a great night, everybody.